Up next on Digital Jam, we'll talk with Bruce Fancher, a former member of the famous hackers group, the Legion of Doom. He'll talk about the hacker culture of today and whether technology companies truly have anything to fear from them. That's next on Digital Jam. It seems as if hackers are causing more problems than ever, or at least it seems that they're threatening to be holding huge conferences such as DEF CON and releasing software such as Back Orifice 2000 that can be used to take over Windows networks, Windows NT networks, in fact. But is there really a growing problem, or is it merely a media-generated fantasy? Joining me now is Bruce Fancher, once a member of the Legion of Doom hacker group and now an independent software developer. Was that a hard transition to make?
Well, not really. I was a hacker when I was a teenager, and I actually took some time off from computers in college before I got into the internet and software development. So there was a period of time between being a hacker and being a professional.
Were you still a hacker when Jeff Moss started up DEF CON, which is now up to what, its 7th year, 9th?
No, I sort of got out of it in 1988, 89, when I was in high school. So by the time 1991 rolled around, I wasn't active in the hacker scene anymore.
As you know, in Las Vegas at DEF CON, they released Back Orifice. I know there's at least one website that's distributing it now. They describe it as an administrator's tool. Isn't that sort of like said with a wink and, you know, tongue-in-cheek? Isn't it really designed to stir up trouble?
Well, to some extent it is. I mean, it is an administrative tool, and that as an administrator, you can run it to see what security vulnerabilities exist. But what it's really intended to do is to put pressure on Microsoft and to expose the security vulnerabilities that Microsoft has left in their commercial operating systems.
Of course, that's not what Microsoft says on its website. It claims that there are no special vulnerabilities. Of course, we've heard for a couple of years now about the problems of ActiveX in Windows being a prime vulnerability. What's going on? We seem to get the sense now that we're hearing about new viruses much more frequently. I sometimes feel, frankly, that hackers are sort of playing the press like a violin, and that the virus companies are also doing the same thing.
Well, as far as hackers playing the press like a violin, I think it's a two-way street. I think the media has a lot of the responsibility for, you know, the hackers didn't become media savvy until reporters started talking to them and interviewing them, shining the spotlight on them. That's certainly one thing that's changed since I was active as a hacker. Let me just say about Microsoft. I think that what they're saying is not true, that Windows NT is very vulnerable to security risks, and it's a big problem. Microsoft is going to ship Windows 2000 next year. It's going to have 30 million lines of code in it. By conventional software metrics, that means it'll have 500,000 bugs. That means that a lot of users, not just corporate users, but home users, are going to have major security vulnerabilities in their system, and it's going to be a big problem. And it's not really the fault of the people who made Back Orifice or of hackers that those security vulnerabilities exist. It's really Microsoft's responsibility.
Well, let's change the name. If it was Novell or Lotus or anybody else, can you have a commercial product and debug that many bugs, or do you have to sort of test it in the marketplace to some large extent?
It's very difficult. One alternative is, instead of using a proprietary operating system like Windows NT, is to use a free operating system like Linux or FreeBSD. And the advantage to those two operating systems is, number one, they've been around a lot longer, 30 years, as opposed to, you know, 7 or 8 for NT. And also that the source code is open, which means anyone can essentially look at the blueprint and see if there are security vulnerabilities, and if they exist, fix them. Microsoft's blueprints, source code, are visible only to a few thousand Microsoft engineers. So as an independent consultant like myself, I wouldn't know that a problem exists. I wouldn't know to trust it until it was too late, until the vulnerability had been exploited.
Somebody today was suggesting that since the source code has been released for Back Orifice, that it could, in effect, become the Linux of this kind of software.
I think, yeah, it's likely that people will continue to add features to Back Orifice. It may be a general-purpose Windows hacking tool, which is a little bit scary if you're an administrator running Linux, that such a thing exists.
Very quickly, we're almost out of time. Kevin Mitnick, who has sort of copped a plea, is about to be sentenced. Are we going to see repercussions? I mean, we've already seen the FBI site being hacked and so forth.
I don't know. I think that I don't think that hackers are driven by politics. I think they're driven by hormones. That's speaking from my own experience as a teenager. I think that the political aspect of it, whether it's the FBI or Kevin Mitnick or whatever else, is more of a cover story for, you know, to justify it. I do think Mitnick has been treated very unfairly, by the way, and that's a big problem.
Okay, well, Bruce, thanks for dropping by.
Thanks for having me.
Bruce Fancher.